Hello again and a very good evening to you and a very warm welcome this very cold December night to our little podcast, Sweet Omagh Town Internet Radio. And as I look across, I see my co-presenter, Mr. Declan Ford. Welcome back, Mr. Ford, and we never left Carrickmore.
No, we're still here. We can't find the exit.
We can't get home.
You know, that happened to me once. I had to go up to an event outside Ballymena and had the great misfortune to actually get stuck in a roundabout in Ballymena. And in Ballymena, they don't have signposts to any major towns or cities. It's all the wee villages. And I was going round and round and round and round, and I've never forgotten it. The Spaniard that blighted my life. This was the roundabout that blighted my life.
Your little Citroen 2CV was seen going round on two wheels, you know.
I was chugging to my heart's content. I was glad to get out. I just took potluck and ended up, I think, in Belfast, you know, which is a shortcut home to Omagh from Ballymena.
You're not the first guy to get lost in Ballymena, I can assure you.
No, God save us and bless us. Anyway, well, tell me all about this week's Sweet Omagh Town.
Well, before I tell you that, I'm going to tell you that this episode is number 100.
My God. A century. We are centurions. Centurion. What's that word?
This is programme 100. Yeah. I don't know where the time has gone, and I don't know the voices, but how privileged we are to get talking to the great and good of Omagh and record this as well.
Absolutely, as we used to say in my family home, we spoke Latin all the time. Tempus fugit. Time indeed does fly, and it's hard to believe we have reached that milestone, 100. Do you know there's an old saying in Mountfield, it's 100, meaning it's 100%, which means, how are you? I'm 100. It means I'm not 100 years of age. I'm 100 inside, 100%. I am just top of the morning, afternoon and evening.
I would say we're both 100 then.
Oh, well, absolutely. Well, especially after the interviewee that we have for this week's Sweet Omagh Town.
Yes, this is one we've been looking for a long time.
Yes.
It's the voice and personality of Omagh's own.
Oh, Frankie McBride. The one and the only. And a great raconteur and a man with a fantastic sense of humour. And you know, I was looking through Frankie's back catalogue, and that's what really took me, because I'm a great aficionado of songwriters like Chris Christopherson. And Frankie in the very early 70s was singing Christopherson songs that nobody else was doing. You know, he had a great ear for a good song.
Oh, what a voice! And you know, turned down international fame as well, as plenty of Omagh people did in the past.
Absolutely. I mean, such a mellow voice, you know, and a voice that it's like melted chocolate, you know. Yeah. Beautiful.
That interview tells of the not just nice times behind the scenes in the showband life as well.
That's it. And brutally honest. And that's the story you want to hear, because a lot of people, I think, have painted that era, the showband era, with kind of rose and green and whatever, pink or whatever coloured glasses you want. You know, that it's become a sort of a high point in a life. And, you know, the reality of it has kind of slipped away. But Frankie talks with great affection and with great honesty about the ups and the downs. And it's a side that you rarely hear about, and Frankie now was very open and very entertaining, and as I say, very, very honest in his reminiscence.
Yeah, I love the part where he said he served his time as a painter.
Oh yes.
Along with his father Frank McBride was a paint contractor as well.
Oh, that's it. Yeah, and you know the life and the band life was another world. From the workaday world of Omagh.
It was a diversion for people as well, wasn't it?
It was surely, you know. And you think, what did they bring? They bring it was a kind of I would say a monochrome world, and they brought, you know, those bands brought a splash of technicolor, you know, and dreams, hopes and ambitions on the stage, and, you know, singing the latest pop songs and ballads and country songs and that, you know. They kind of opened the world, I think, in a way. You know, and kind of made us hope and dream for better things.
Okay, Mr. Ford, I think someone has come to rescue us here tonight.
We leave Carrickmore tonight.
We get home for Christmas.
I'll be home for Christmas. Well, you know, on that note, I want to wish everybody out there, except yourself, a very happy Christmas and a peaceful Christmas and an enjoyable Christmas. I presume you'll celebrate, like Scrooge, your Christmas in your own unique way.
I know something. I'd be very glad to get some coal for Christmas this year.
Why change the habit of a lifetime? That's all you ever got for Christmas, was the bag of coal.
Oh, well. whatever.
Well,
Anyway, Mr. Ford, have a good Christmas to yourselves and your family.
the same to yourself.
And to all our listeners, and thanks 100. That's it.
Thanks 100 indeed. In that old Mountfield parlance, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Frankie McBride.
Enjoy.
I grew up in Gallis Hill,
Uh-huh.
number 1 New Brighton Terrace.
Right, where
Born there.
The late Stevie McKenna lived.
No, Stevie on up. He lived. We used to call it Stephen's Green.
Right.
After-
Opposite the brothers.
Aye, it was a wee house in there, just
That's right.
on the way up Orchard Terrace, you know.
Uh-huh.
Stevie McKenna.
And school was the
Christian
the
Brothers.
brothers. Can you remember any of the brothers there?
I do. Brother Skian, didn't like him. Brother O'Connell, Brother Burns, Brother Hamill. And then there was Scully. There was Scully. He taught.
Harry Scully?
I think that was his name. He taught.
Quinn.
He lived off the Derry Road there, just a lane going up there across the railway line.
Aye.
Lived up in there.
Cork Race, you call that?
Yeah,
Right. It was Busty Byrne. Was that his nickname?
Bonzo.
Bonzo.
He when you went to him, you were doing the 11 plus.
And well, then your father was a painter.
Yeah, so was I.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
When did you start the trade? When did you
I
start?
was when I left school, 14 or whatever it was them days, you know.
Uh-huh.
I was earmarked to be a painter. You see,
Right.
I used to do a bit of sign writing, and paper hanging, and stuff.
Uh-huh.
You know.
And where did you learn the sign writing? Because it's
I just picked it up. I did a course on it as well.
Aye.
They would send you stuff every week or whatever.
Uh-huh. And also then, what about that, you know, with the painting and then giving, say, a marble effect with paint?
My father did it.
What did you call that?
Marbling.
Oh, marbling, right.
Used a feather just, you know.
Right, just to get the
To get the thing. And then he
ends or whatever.
had rubbers as well he could use.
Uh-huh.
I remember him doing, when we lived in New Brighton Terrace, he did the staircase going up,
Right.
all panels, you know, with the marbling.
Oh,
It was lovely.
lovely.
Yeah.
And how long did you stay at the painting trade?
I stayed at the painting. I was working on my own. I was doing a school in Maguire's Bridge. There was a little school there when you come to the bridge. If you look to your right, there was a school there, a one classroom school. So I was working in it, and Jerry Nugent and somebody else came up to ask me if I would join the band and that I had a license and I would be able to drive the van.
Right.
You see, 2 for the price of 1.
That's right. A win-win situation.
So I did that for a while, and then we got busy, you know, we got popular. So then I couldn't do the work with my father then. I felt sorry about it, you know.
Aye.
But Tony then, Tony would give him a pull out, you know.
We were talking to Jimmy Miller. You know Jimmy, the osteopath, is he, up in the town?
Yeah.
His father, Martin Miller, I recall giving you first prize at some feast between yourself and Brian Call.
Was Brian Call on it? I was doing there was nobody to sing. I did a bass, I think it was. I did a baritone version of Gavin Barry, and there was no other. I got first prize because nobody else was. I had no competition. There was nobody there,
Right.
only me. So I got a medal for that. A tendency to croon at the same time, you know.
Well, tell me about the early days in Omagh during the sort of the days of the pantomimes and stuff. Were you involved in as well?
Aye, we did when Father
Shields?
when Father Shields came to the town. We started the Boys and Girls Club, you know. So that was down onto the chapel, and I was in there, and they were starting, and they were looking for a singer. And Pat Chester said, "Frankie McBride can sing," so I was roped in, you know. But my parts in the show was just a bit in the middle, you know, in the change of scenery, whatever they do. So. Walking in the Rain, I think, was the first one that I did. And then we did Showboat, and I did a part of Joe, where you sang Old Man River in it, and that, you know, which was a big stretch for a 16-year-old or whatever, you know. Getting the low notes, I'd be at the back going, well, you know, to get the drop down bit.
Get the note, you know.
It was good, I enjoyed it all.
Well, tell me, when you started with the band, which led to giving up the painting, what age were you?
I was 21, I think, or 2.
Right.
I did about 6 years of the painting, you know. That was it. And we just got too popular.
What was the band name?
Polka Dots.
Oh, the Polka Dots. Right.
There was a competition in the Star Ballroom, and that was the name was picked for the Polka Dots.
Right.
Who managed the band that time?
Jerry Nugent and Mr. Dunny, that owned the two cinemas.
Well, then, were the Polka Dots in existence before that, or was it a band
They were.
created?
They started about 9 months before I joined them, I think, roughly. And Brian Call was in the band at that time. You see? So, Brian, a lovely singer, God bless us, you could listen to him all night. And he'd be doing the yodeling and all that stuff, you know. So, what happened then as time went on then, I was sort of doing all Jim Reeves stuff and that sort of country stuff. And I didn't know the difference between country and western and anything else, you know, that's what they called it. But I was playing one night in Ruski with two-band show with the Magnificent Seven, Jimmy Liddy, if you ever heard of Jimmy Liddy, yodeling Jimmy. But anyway, I remember Jimmy when we come off and Jimmy says, I like your country and western. You know, that's the first time I ever heard of it referred to as country and western, you know. But you were plagued with Jim Reeves songs, you were singing them every week. You know, we had one out that, you know, there was that many of them, I must have done a dozen of them or more.
Yeah.
But it was good training, you know.
Yeah. Why do you think Jim Reeves was so popular in Ireland?
I don't know, we just had that sentimental songs that he sang, you know, and he had that tone to his voice, beautiful quality, you know. Diction was perfect.
And then when you listen to some of his earlier stuff, he kind of seemed to sing in a higher register.
Yeah.
And then he discovered that was Chet Atkins, whatever brought it to him.
He sang in a tunnel, apparently.
Right.
When I was in Nashville, somebody told me, the bass player that used to work with him, told me that he sang in a tunnel down to the mic. Those days, there were only 4-track machines, you know, there wasn't a lot of mixing or anything to get a nice sound, you know.
But he had a great choice of songs for you to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember reading once about him, and when he recorded one song, he looked at the engineer and he says that's the insurance policy.
Yeah.
And you.
Yeah.
It was a
that's a pension.
That's the pension.
That's a pension.
But
it's funny, he was died around 64 or something. His wife never called him the late Jim Reeves. All the albums were Jim Reeves. She
kept a thing going, yeah. She looked after the business.
And he must have had a huge back catalogue of stuff that he hadn't released because for years he produced albums.
Yeah.
Well, a good singer can go on and record an album, 2 albums in a day. Like, I mean, if you know your songs and you have a feel for them, what you're doing, it's not any recordings I've done in Nashville. I only do one take and that's it. I'm gone. You know.
Well, then, before Nashville, then the Polka Dots were. How did they kind of progress, or what way? How did they ascend?
Dances, you know. We were playing in Belfast and places, and the people would be we were none the wiser. People would be queuing up to come in, you know, and we just thought that was it, and the place would be bunged. But we thought every band did that. But, you know, when you're coming from home, you don't see that much. Only a Star Ballroom and Mel Daces, God love him, on a Saturday night or somebody. And the best bands going then with Johnny Quigley and that, you know. And then the Royal Show Band, they came to played in the Foresters. I remember peeping in the door looking at them. Right. They were all standing up rather than sitting down like the bands before them. Right. You know.
And that was a revelation, was it?
It was, and the next time they were back in the Gap Ballroom or somewhere else, bigger, you know.
And then when did the recording start? When did you get it?
I recorded way back in 65, I would say I would have recorded. I did the Blackbird of My Heart and Two Little Orphans and stuff like that for Solomon. And then when I was doing the Blackbird of My Heart, there was a boy called Bill O'Donovan. He was a big man in RTE. And he had a brother who was very close, looked after Eamon Andrews. And I could hear him, he called him in, I think it was Frankie called him. One take, you don't have to sing that one take. Says, so I got a job then singing on a Sunday with the Maureen Potter show, because it was a live radio, you see. So, yeah. So I did that for a while. With some drive, you were playing a cold rain and then you had to be down there for 12 o'clock.
To do the live show.
There was no traffic on the road anyway. You batter down the road, heard you go.
And what was Maureen Potter like to work with?
She was a lovely person, yeah. Down to earth. I'd have a good crack, and then we'd have a break and go over, and I never drank. That's only the first time I had a glass of whiskey. After one of the long runs, whatever I was doing, the boy says, "Take a wee glass of whiskey." And it was, Paddy, that was the name of the whiskey we got.
Oh.
God, that was burning the mouth of you. But anyway, every little helps, I suppose.
Well, that's it.
Didn't do me any harm.
So then, had you a manager at that stage then, or what way?
We had, I don't know, with Mickey O'Hanlon, he was with the Clipper Carlton. Mickey managed a while. I don't know what happened. Then we had another lad that, Keeley, Paddy Keeley, he used to manage us. He was from Dungiven. And we'd be trying to plug oil records in Dublin. We'd be driving down and coming back late at night. And the usual thing, you'd be out in RTE. That time it was from the post office, really, so you'd meet everybody, the Terry Wogans and a whole lot of them,
Those are days of sponsor programs.
That's right.
Was it hard to get onto the programmes?
I think, I shouldn't probably say this, but they weren't that keen maybe in promoting northern people, It's the same as recording here and trying to get a hit in England, you know what I mean? Which was impossible,
Aye. And you recorded with, was it Phil
Emerald.
Solomon in Belfast?
Emerald Records, Mervyn Solomon.
Mervyn Solomon,
I recorded for him, and we did. And then Radio Caroline was going at the time, and he was thinking of doing recording in England and London, So they'd put 2 singers up to send to the producer. So there was Roddy Daniels and myself. So they picked me to go. But the funny thing about it, the year before that, I'd sent a song that I wanted to record. And I turned it down, and Solomon came on, he said, the DJs wouldn't play that because of the narration in the middle. Now, I don't know what happened, that copy that I sent over, but Tom Jones brought it out next. The Green Grass of Home. I recorded 2 songs from, I did the Shutters and Boards and the Green Grass of Home. And I had it in a wee EP. And that's where I got it. I think it was Porter Wagner or somebody was singing on it or something like that. And I never got the crack at it, And then he come back then, and I had Bill Anderson stuff, So it was 5 Little Fingers in it. So there was no problem recording it, and there was narrations in the middle of it, because Tom Jones did the one that I wanted to do first anyway. But that's life, God knows where you'd be now, in jail or buried somewhere. Go to your head very quickly.
Was it Barney Culling managed that?
Barney, well, the band was going well, you see, so P.M. McCann was in the band, and he said, Barney Curdy'd like to meet the band. He wants you to go down and meet Con Hines, Associated Ballrooms. So I went with Barney anyway in the car, and the boys went down, and at this time 5 Little Fingers was recorded, and the band was starting to climb up a bit, But I was sitting with Barney and down anyway at a Vauxhall Cresta, and there was a hole in the floor, and the fumes would have killed you. A big hole in the passenger's side, what a man. Anyway, so he brought it down, and he introduced us to Con Hines, but the whole thing was a con job anyway, And Con Hines managed the band, and Barney would be looking after us on the road, sort of thing. Con Hines never had nothing to do with the band. It was all a set-up. Terrible handling altogether. So I got X number of pounds, and the boys got so much. I don't know what half of them got, but anyway. He said, would you do that for 3 years? I said, aye, that's okay. I've been a man of my word, I did it for 3 years. But that was it, 3 years. And then he came and he offered me £40 a week after 3 years. Nice trick. As the boys used to say, McBride, put theirs in your trousers, Bernie. Yeah. Well, but then he wrote a book, and in the book, when I lived in London, he used to do the antiques and that, and I'd be going to the auctions. And that's the boy that did the auction here, and very, check jacket and very posh sort of boy. He does, you'd see him on TV there doing things. But anyway, he said, I have a book here, Frank, with Barney Curley, because we have at Marble Arch, there's a gambling casino. What do you call it? And it'll come back to me anyway. But he worked there, and he was asking me, "What's this Barney Curly man like?" I said, "He's like this pimpernel." I says, "You seek him here, you seek him there." He wanted to know because when we'd go over there, we'd be there for 2 weeks, say, in England, and Barney would go to Frank McClune, who was the head man for the Burns' circuit, and plus the other ballrooms as well, like Leeds and Coventry and all over the place. And Burns, they were in London and they were in Birmingham. The 2 halls in Birmingham and had the Galtymore in London. But then there was other ballrooms in London too, you know. But Barney used to go, you know, you don't hear anything until it's all over. So Barney used to go to Frank McClune and draw the money, but he'd leave enough money to pay the band, and they'd go gambling with the rest of it. But that's the way it worked anyway. So we did that for a while, and then I was saying after the 3 years, then it was a 40 quid, and it wasn't much good, you know.
And that was still with the Polka Dots?
Yeah.
Where did you record Five Little Fingers?
London.
In London?
Yeah.
Right. So did you kind of cut the recording ties with Belfast?
He paid for the recordings.
Ah, right.
Emerald Records.
Right.
So he had a brother there, Philip Solomon.
That's what it is.
You know, yeah.
By the way, you didn't watch the documentary on Barney, did you?
I did.
If he was to live his life over, what would he be as a priest?
He's trying to buy his way into heaven at the finish up. Didn't work on him.
No.
Anyway,
Well then, that means that you were tied into a kind of a ballroom circuit.
well, we thought it'd be good to tie in with Con because he had a programme for 15 minutes on RTE. So we thought, great. And then we ended up playing in his ballrooms because he had quite a few. And then you didn't play in Albert Reynolds' ballrooms, you know. It was a sort of a...
Bit of a mafia style, wasn't it?
Oh, sure. But as I say, like, Barney was probably the deal he had with Con probably the band would be cheaper playing in his halls, you know, than anywhere else, you see, because he was doing a figurehead thing. Because one day we stopped, we went into Port Tumnah, that's where he lived, and we knocked the door and we asked him, you know, we need to get another record out and stuff like this. And he sort of looked at us. Oh, he says, no, that your band, he says, are losing money, that'll not be happening. You know what I mean? So we knew what's happening here. Like, Barney wasn't telling him, I don't know which.
Right.
Because I remember we were playing a gig in Brentwood, wanted something to do in Portland. And Brent says to me, God, that band, you're getting lifting the right bit of dough there, Frank, you know. I says, why? We wanted to book you for the Portland Hall. We did play it several times. And Barney says, he asked Barney what the fee was, and he took out the cigarette bag and he opened the top and he wrote it on it there. And then he shows it to you like that. 600 quid a night. So that would have paid the band for a fortnight. It was terrible when you think about it, but you don't know these things until it's over. Like Brian Call, he'd have got a great deal out of Con Hines. They offered Call like something like £350 a week. They didn't offer me that, like. But then Brian wasn't talking to me to let me know what the scene was. Nobody smoked each other, and that's what happened, you know.
And did that have a kind of a sort of a cumulative effect? And did you get jaded with it then?
I did. I've never enjoyed the singing bit, you know, and that, but it was just living, you know.
I know. I interviewed Jim Armstrong, the great guitar player. He used to play with the College Boys, and Kenny McDowell, great singer from Belfast, but played with them.
Yeah.
And just the rip-off of managers and that.
All the time, yeah.
Young men stuck in America,
Yeah.
and just nearly begging the money to get back home to Ireland. You know?
Yeah.
You know, and but as you said, you were young and didn't.
Parasites, I call them. You know.
Yeah.
Parasites, living off you boys, getting you dates and taking 20% of your day and whatever.
Do you remember the guys in the Polka Dots? Were they all Omagh guys?
They were the original band were all Omagh, and then Charlie McElroy went away, and we got in Colin Keeley from Dungiven, and Colin stayed with me in Courtridge Park then, in the wee single room I had there, so Colin lived there a while. Then he met his future wife up top of the park. Colin was a civil being, you know. Johnny Nugent and Paddy Owens, and you know, they were all easy to get on with, you know.
And how long did the Polka Dots then remain as a unit?
Around that time, just after that, I think Hugo Duncan came in to the band then, when I wouldn't go back for the 40 quid, and they changed the names. We got in Paddy Phillips and Sean Phillips, and that type of thing, and they changed the name to the Tall Men.
Tall Men, yes.
You know, and Duncan had a hat with a
Dear God, was it?
Dear God, yeah.
So then, when you and the Polka Dots parted company, what happened then?
I didn't do pile then. What it did then, I met Neelis O'Connell. He used to manage Rolly Daniels and Tim Farley and that. Neelis says there's an opening for sort of cabaret, you know, lounges were sort of coming up. So Nigel says, he said I could get work, you know. So I got Paddy Owens in, and I got Charlie Fox on drums, Brendan Sweeney on guitar, and John McHugh on piano. So John could play the bass with left hand, lead and drums, and you know. So we did a circuit then. We used to do all over the south of Ireland. But it was a great crack one time. When we were passing, my wife's from that end of the world. And as you come into Nina, there was coming from the Limerick side where you're coming into Nina, on the old road, just before you hit Nina, there was a pub up in the hill. I can't remember the name of it, the Four Barrels or so something. And we were playing one night in it. And I forget what the fee was. Maybe it was a door, no door, or something anyway. We were sent down there to play anyway, so we went down the road in the old van and played the gig. There wasn't too many at it, but it was a great night. Some nights you can have a great night when very few people about. You know, it's one of those things. But before Charlie Fox, he bought a calculator, you see. So the way the band worked, I got 2/3 of the band and they got 1/3. So I ran the wagon and paid the manager and so on. And Charlie did the calculator. We got £15 for the night. And Charlie did the calculator working out what he was going to get. And John McHugh, like the laughs of John McHugh in the van. The calculators were the thing.
Oh, yeah.
Did the late Jerry Anderson play with you for a while?
Jerry played.
He bass player with you?
He was a bass player. Great fella, Jerry. Nice lad. Good old singer too at that. Little Richard stuff and all, you know.
Right.
Oh, deadly.
Very humorous, very, very funny. Wrote a couple of great books about.
I never read them.
Oh, they're very, very just about wee vignettes about Derry and that, and
I never knew he wrote anything at all.
Surviving in Stroke City is one of the
was
books.
one of them. And then he played in America with.
I played with in Canada with boys, all right.
Well, he spoke very fondly of you. I actually work with him in Radio Foil occasionally. Maybe you often ask about and your art collection. He says.
Frankie, his art. He come up with a pair of dungarees on him, you know, and platform shoes, you know, and they put that what. You know, but he's a very nice fella, and he'd like to sit beside Charlie Fox. He'd say to me, "Don't get rid of him. He's great." So I don't know what he was getting of Charlie, like, but he liked Charlie. You know, don't get rid of Charlie. He's a funny fella. He listened, you know, more than talk.
Yeah.
He take things in, you know, absorb.
Very clever.
Very clever fellas,
Very
right?
clever. Much missed, you know, much missed. So then, how long did the cabaret circuit last?
God, that's a good question. How did that end, anyway? My life's a mystery. I don't know what happened anyway. But, this is what happened. Cecil Thompson came then one night. We were playing in Navan. We were playing in Navan one night, and Cecil Thompson came in and he said, "Frank, would you not go on the road again as a show band and just add another member?" So we thought we'd do that. So we worked with Cecil Thompson for a while then. And then when that sort of wound up then, I just started managing myself. And we started going to England a lot, playing Irish clubs. So the whole 80s, most of the 80s, we travelled every week. I got a sponsored deal with Sea-Link, and I had free travel. So I could see us. We would leave on a Sunday or a Saturday. If we wanted a date, we could go to Edinburgh and play the date and come home. It didn't cost you anything to try. Like the mileage on Juice wasn't any more than 100 mile, you know, or 200 mile. It's the same as going down the country for a gig. So we did that. I even went to Manchester for one night and back, because you get the 7 o'clock boat in the morning, you know, so you're back home again. And the things you did, you know. But you wouldn't have been able to do it, and it was a night's pay for the band.
Yeah.
You know, you had to look at it that way too.
Yeah.
And we'd be playing in London, then we'd try and get something on the way back up sometimes, in the Midlands or wherever, or even further up, Dumfries or anywhere.
Right.
And would stay over and then get the boat in the morning. You know, but you wouldn't be a pile of money in it, but you'd do the last gig because there's a few pound for the band, you know.
Right.
Then after that was it. I just fed up. And the band too, like, you know, there was a few changes, travelling back and forward all the time, you know. And then it was just, I sort of said, that's it.
Were the audiences changing as well? Or?
No, we were doing the clubs. It was great. It was a good thing because it's very easy to get all the Irish clubs because you just buy the Irish papers in England and you see what bands is playing in it that would pay that sort of money, you know. You know, not just a local group, but travelling groups. And we played we played the ballrooms as well in London, you know what I mean? It wasn't tied to that, but we spent 10 years with that and then you were into 1990, like, you know. So that was it. I thought, I'll take a break from that.
And were you involved in antiques at that stage, or were you
Always in antiques from my mother's day. I remember going to an auction on the Barry Road, about 2 or 3 miles. It was a bad bend on the Barry Road, and there's a big house up there, just now in Manchester or something. I remember going there with my mother and Dan's wife Peggy to an auction in it. And then there was another one there on the old Mountfield Road. That house.
I know the one in the
Aye,
left side.
aye.
Cree or something. Another name on it. I know the house.
That's when you're going out, the old road is on the right, just opposite the school.
right? Oh yes,
Up
yes,
in there.
Yes.
And went to an auction there and I bought a painting there
Right.
for £50. My first oil painting.
What was it? Can you remember what it was, or
It was a big painting. You know, would have been that size. A boy fishing and just a landscape thing, you know.
Right.
But he was sort of a red turban on him or something that looked funny. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't fishing at all. He'd been having a whatever. But I kept that for years. Years I kept it. Used to always up above the fireplace. No matter where you went, that was up in the fireplace. No mirrors, you know. Oh, God.
Your mother had a good eye for antiques, had she?
She liked that sort of stuff, you know. The house was full of, I call them shiny bits.
Trumpery, huh? My friend Owen Smith, the late Owen Smith, used to say his wife suffered from auctionitis.
Owen or somebody.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh no.
God, the people that's missing out on me, you know.
I knew Owen very well. He bought a cottage opposite my house.
He used to go out and have Kelly's or somebody used to be telling me about it.
It was
Yeah.
great. I was building a house at the time when Owen bought it, so we ran the Kelly's together. We had crack, innocent fun.
Had he something in Ballyshannon too?
No, that was the post office address.
Oh, was it?
So when you looked at Owen Craft, it was an Irish product. It was an accommodation address in Ballyshannon, you know. So he was always he was a shrewd businessman, you know.
Yeah, nice fella. I was at school with him in my day.
He was, and the son Odrin is the spitting image of him.
Is he?
Oh, you'd swear, and the same kind of loopy way.
Yeah.
And John Smith had, you know.
Aye, John.
Yeah.
Used to go down by the odd flies off and going fishing.
You know, I was looking through your back catalogue, and you were recording Christopherson songs.
Yeah.
When they were
Nobody else was doing it.
When nobody else was doing them, were you able to pick your own batch of songs?
Oh yeah.
Because I mean that's what really struck out. Struck out to me. It was the songs that you picked were kind of off the beaten track. Great songs.
Yeah, I remember recording a Mickey Newbury song. You ever heard of him?
Oh,
I think it was called Sunshine.
Right,
Should have been an album somewhere.
He's the American trilogy.
And I think I did a John Denver song. Lady, my...
All right.
Lady,
crying.
are you crying?
That's it, John Denver, surely.
I recorded that too. It was a nice version, you know. Well,
how did you find recording in Nashville?
Oh, just in and out.
Right.
You know. It was just handy, like, and we just go in. If you know what you're doing in the band, they're just like that. Yeah. We run over, like, sort of what, and then they would, you just put the voice on, that's it, and then the guitar player could say, I could do another bit in there, you know, run that back, and they put another. That's all it was.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't have a big orchestra or anything, you know.
Right.
It's all rhythm and that's it.
Aye.
And Hargus Peg Robinson playing the piano, you know.
Right.
Yeah, and Jim Reeves is bass player.
Uh-huh.
I forget his name. And Tom Peck, he would do that. It was Tom Peck was engineer, but that was Porter Wagner's old studio. We did a couple of things in,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
And was it much different from recording over here?
No, not really.
Aye.
It was very tight. Like the recording studio wouldn't be any bigger than this room, you know.
Right.
And there was a door at that end where the boys bring in their gear just.
That's
And
right.
throw the boy with 2 or 3 guitars and
Uh-huh.
you know, and that'd be it set up, and then they get the girls in doing a bit of singing. And the girls that they were using, and a couple of girls or 3 girls and a fella, I'm not sure, but they work with Dolly. They were Dolly's back in band up in Dollywood, you know. And
Right.
I did 4 in the morning, I remember, and we were looking for a fiddle player, and the man says, I can get the fiddle player. I played on the original with
Far and Young.
Farr and Young, you know. And funny, I met Farr and Young,
Well,
and I give him a copy of my album. I don't know if he's happy or not. Anyway, Farr and Young.
what singers did you listen to or did you admire?
I like Bobby Baird in my day, you know. I like Bobby Baird. I used to do a lot of his songs, you know.
Uh-huh.
And last night I went to sleep in Detroit City.
Yeah.
I used to do his songs.
Yeah.
And one of the George Jones was a great stylist, you know,
Aye.
the way he could sing and drop, and you know, I liked him.
Roy Drewski, did you listen to him?
Aye, well, it'd be all right. I would be. I'd like Brooke Benton would be, and I met him too.
Right.
I met Brooke Benton, and me and he signed a big poster for me to Frankie. We're playing in New York, and I left it behind me in the dressing room. I'm kicking myself since. God, because I'll tell you, I always liked Brooke Benton. I did a song here, The Bow Evil or something it was, and then he had Rainy Night in Georgia.
Yes.
And I bought a wee cassette going to New York, and we went into the hotel. This is the God's truth. I plugged it into the wall and switched it on, and who come on singing Rainy Night in Georgia? Amazing, isn't it? And then the next time he sort of went off. I don't know what it was, you know, but he went off the band. He was making a comeback thing, you know. So Frank Toll from Carrickmore phoned me, and he knew I was into your man. So he said, would slip down, he says, and we'll go in. So we went down and we went in, the show was on. But I had to leave at half time because I was on at 11 o'clock up the road. But I should have stayed anyway because who cared?
Yeah.
You know, nobody. But, and then we went down and met him in the changing room at the break. And he was telling him he was very popular in Ireland and all, he should come over. And all.
Yeah.
Do you really think so? He had 2 big boys with him, you know.
Right.
They were big happy.
Oh, I'm keeping an eye on it. You know.
Boys
But
eat
it
a
was
cow for their dinner, you know.
Yeah, you know, I suppose Hank Lachlan would have been one of the first.
I worked
to
with
tap-
him too.
Did
Yeah.
you?
I did. Hank.
What was he like?
Oh, he had a wee case,
Uh-huh.
and he kept 3 bottles in it of Jack Daniels.
Right.
I remember one night we were playing for Tony Lockman at that. He managed me too, Tony Lockman. God, the life I've had. All these managers. But we were playing one night, I don't know, somewhere about Monaghan or in the middle of nowhere anyway, one of those, blocks and
Mm-hmm.
ballroom job. And I remember Hank was in Louis Rogers had him over, Lou Rogers, because he had a daughter singing. She had a hit record, Clodagh Rogers.
Oh yes.
Yeah, so Lou, I knew him well, and he said to me, he said, he was lying back in the car, I guess. Hank was lying, I guess. Lou says to me, what did he say? You're on. Where's my guitar? He's deadly. That's what they had a special case made for 3
For the 3
Jack
Daniels,
Daniels.
for his libations.
Yeah.
I think there is footage of him on YouTube, and he must be about 95 or 96. Still
Really?
singing at the Grand Ole Opera.
Really?
Oh.
I was on it too, the Grand
Were
Ole
you?
Opera. I was
And
everywhere.
the old opera,
Oh.
the,
I know, I wasn't on the new one.
the new one. What was it like in the Grand Ole Opera?
I was in it looking around it, but that was it. Just as you see it, like an old church type of thing, you know.
Right.
Yeah, photographs taken outside and all. Wonder where they are. In the bin.
C'est la vie, yeah. But Hank Lachlan, and he really tapped into the Irish market. Charlie Pride, I suppose, did the same.
And the other one we did too, we played in the I think it was called the Forum in London, and a revolving stage in it. It was near that, there's a bridge, you used to call it the Suicide Bridge. There was big people would, but we were playing away the polka dots, it was great, playing in London and all. And this thing come around like this here, and we thought we were doing really well. And Hank come around then, anybody here from Ireland? The fucking place erupted. I will just forget about the polka. Put them back in the drawer. Anybody here from Ireland? No, deadly. But he was good.
Yeah.
He was good. It was good. I liked about, even you get the rock and roll was like Chuck Berry and boys like that,
Yeah. I mean, I never thought I would see the day when I went to see Chris Christopherson in the Leisure Centre in Dungannon.
In the Leisure Centre?
Yeah.
Was there such a place?
Yep, just as you drive.
We used to play the old ballroom there for...
The Leisure Centre just down as you drive into Dungannon, left-hand side.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Was Chris there?
Chris there, he was just there, and it was about the early 90s. He had a keyboard player with him.
Is that all?
Yeah.
He played guitar himself?
And then he saw him on the point, a number of years later, him and a guitar, and that's the way then his career went, and he was packing places out.
Yeah. Great songwriter.
Oh, but he and John Prine. Oh,
yeah.
imagine.
John another weirdo.
Yeah. But Christopherson was something else.
I was. Very clever fellow. He was at Oxford or somewhere.
He was,
Not like us, Brother Hamills.
He and
Christian Brothers.
He and Johnny Cash and
You see that show? Them doing the show?
but they were on, and I saw them. It was out now on DVD. Johnny Cash in Ireland, but they played in Carrickmacross a couple of nights before, and
The whole setup?
the whole I think
Wally Nelson, all that?
Oh no, not that. No, not that.
No, they never came to Ireland.
They
did they?
did the Highwaymen. They
Did they
they played the King's Hall in the mid-80s, and I missed them.
Really?
Wally Nelson, Waylon Jennings, and Christopherson. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no.
I seen that on telly. I watched it a couple of times, that
They were
show.
in the King's Hall.
Yeah.
And
It was a good show.
So-
Well, he's a style of his own. He's wee guitar, dinky, dinky.
Oh, he's
And you say, is he playing? What note is he playing there? When you hear him having the odd ding, you think, where is he? But
sharper.
he dinky, dinky. We were playing in the Union Hall in Queens there. Used to play it on Saturday night. And there was we were playing one night, and Simple Simon Says was popular at the time. You probably heard that story before. Did you know? And I was shouting up anyway, but I don't know if it was John Sutter or P.O. McCann was in the band. There were two in the band, and we come up, play Simple Simon, Simple Simon. And I think Sutter went over and said, Simple Simon Says, F off. And P.O. would have hit him with I've seen P.O. hitting boys with the top of the bass. We dab on the side of the chin, annoying him. One thing, if P was on the band, he was for the band. He was 100% band. There's nothing else. He was deadly. He was deadly that way.
oh dear.
I took him to America, sure.
Did you?
Did. I went over and played in Dirty Nellies or somewhere.
Right.
And that was the time I met singers. Aye, that's right, because I went down to see Brooke Benton, and it was, as I said earlier, I should have stayed on because P.O. was in the band, because I'd let P.O. he'd ramble away on it.
Aye.
Dungannon Road and a whole load of stuff. Midweek there wouldn't be a pile,
Aye.
and I'd sit at the bar and let him work away.
Yeah.
And I should have stayed that night and got the second half of the show.
It's to see.
But
right.
P was great now, on that scene, That's why we brought him,
So Artie with Linda, he played with you in the
Artie was in the band, the Polka Dots, this
Very start,
near enough to start, because
Johnny Nugent, he a bass player, was he?
Johnny Nugent and Paddy Owens, they went to Frank Chisholm, and we got Speedy Hamilton and Artie that time. Then another big boy from Derry.
The keyboard player, no?
No, he's a bass player.
Oh, right.
Richard Duffy.
Oh, yeah.
He played in the Magnificent Seven. and he'd be introduced, and boy can he rock, and he jumped up one night and hit his head of the ceiling.
Rob Strong, he was Derry as well, wasn't he?
Rob was in the Polka Dots way back then. Johnny Nugent's father took him out of the band, so we had to get a bass player, and we were going through Derry. It was night we come back from either the boathouse in Goldrain or Port Stewart somewhere, playing down there, and we stopped at the fish and chip shop, Cassoni's I think it was called, and went down, and Robbie was there, and he had sort of a check jacket on him, and I don't know, he sort of glasses or what he had on him, and the fair hair, and I knew he played with the Paddy McCaffrey band from over in Donegal there, Ballyshannon or somewhere, I don't know where he's from. But anyway, we asked Robbie, we were playing in Portadown, St Mary's the next night, so we asked Robbie would he be interested in, come and do the audition, and we're in St Mary's Hall. So anyway, we went up to St Mary's Hall, and we did the audition with Rob, and we were sort of standing listening to him, and he was singing Cliff Richard songs. God must have a crying dog, living, walking, living. I said, dead on. But then as the time went on then, he sort of changed. And we were doing a week in Port Stewart. And the band used to break. You'd have, I was off the two breaks because I was only a singer. I didn't play anything. So the drummer, somebody player would play the drums and so on. And Rob would take the singing end. He started into this rock and roll stuff, this golden match down, and we'd be looking, what's that? What's that? And the head up in the air, the bass going. We'd be listening to different stuff that we would be playing, but that we let him at it and we enjoyed it. And then he was very helpful to me because when I was learning the words of Five Little Fingers, I don't play anything. So Robbie came on the bass, and the two of us over to Knocknamoon, a wee room in Knocknamoon, the two of us knocked it out that way. And then I was supposed to go to England and all that. There was a load of old crap at the time. I said, Robbie, I'm not going anywhere, But I never told anybody the whole story, But Robbie and he ended up in the Plattermen, which suited them down to the ground, really. But at that particular time about me going, Mervyn Solomon, I had a contact with him for every 2 years or a year, and they'd have to bring it out an album or a single, or and I was getting paid 90%. No, I was getting 5% based on 90% of wholesale, which was that minute nobody could ever work it out. So that was my royalties. But then the other thing came into the thing then. He got me, he said there's when Five Little Fingers was doing a bit in the charts, he got this boy in England, I don't know who he was. It was a name you would know if I said it, And he wanted to manage, I'd go over there and he would manage me, and he'd have a musical director for me, and you'd get a wee stage act put together and all this here. And the deal was, I get 50% of what you get of your fee. And out of my fee, you'd have to pay me digs and pay the AMD and all that crap. You ever hear like it in all your life? Isn't that terrible, And you think the boys from over there, Frank Carson and all that, they were all treated the same. You know what I mean? And the bachelors, they work for them as well.
Right.
Yeah. And that Lena Savaroni or whatever she was, a wee girl. She worked with me there too.
It was very cruel.
It was serious. I thought it was. I lifted the phone when all this was produced to me. I left one told him there's no way I'd be going to 50% of what you earn. I said, I should have your first gigs in Curzon Street. He says it's $350 for the show, for the week or something. I don't know what it was, but there was no way I was going to get $350 and give him the other half of it.
Yeah.
And then I'd pay your man, go and pay me digs and feed myself, and get from A to B in the train or wherever you were going. I don't know. But we had the best time when I managed the band myself. We had great crack. There was only four of us, nobody could fall out. We hadn't 7 or 8 people now anymore. Yes, right. Like Jimmy O'Neill and Brian Call one day, it was very good crack. We picked Jimmy up at the house, and Jimmy brought out the accordion anyway, and we were going down, as they call it, the new road, isn't it, up above the Commons there. And Call says, if you don't have that, we can never get out to fight the two boys in the street. We weren't 20 yards from his house. Serious.
Oh
I
dear.
got and there was one other night come back from my own. Who was it? It was called two again as usual, and Johnny Nugent were out to get out to fight in the field anyway. They were going like this at one another.
Right.
God, it was serious.
Yeah.
There's no harm in it at all. You know,
It's the stresses have been on the road.
forgotten about the next day.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You
It's
know.
just that close proximity to people.
Aye, somebody said something
The
and,
wrong thing, just and
like stop the car, I want to pee or something, and nobody would stop. And
yeah.
next thing somebody would be peeing the back of their neck. You know all about it.
It wasn't the glamorous life.
But when you were young, it was great.
Oh,
Cheers, when you were leaving home, you were going down through Leitrim and all to Longford, and all you were looking around the fields. You were, what did you see in home?
that's right.
You know, school and home again. That was it. You know, come here on a Saturday and go to Starbury. I went to the pictures every night. There were two cinemas. You had the County and Miller's. They were changed every 2 days, so you had a different show every night. It was great.
It was, you know.
But Omagh produced more than its fair share of bands. Was that because of the St Eugene's band, do you think, or St Eugene's?
It was partly, but when you take God, Derek Mahaffey, I mean, they weren't none of them. They were,
That's right.
you know, they weren't in St Judy's band, and there was no
No, that's right.
just picked it up themselves, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like we had Ian McCallion, he was in St Jude's band. I was in St Jude's band. Eugene Nixon was in St Jude's band, you know, and Mickey Chester was in St Jude's band. He played trombone, so he had saxophone, trumpet, trombone player. I was St Eugene, you know.
Yeah.
I don't think I was in Eugene's band. I only carried it about, you know, euphonium or something. You know, you win the bus trips, you know, it was great. Down to Moville and all, down to Moville and all, and the thing stuck in your thing. Sometimes I'd get a trumpet or a cornet anyway. Like the boys playing the piano, we're not playing at all, you know. One night we had no piano playing, Frank Colgan was with us. The crack, and we were playing up one of them halls in Belfast, dodgy enough place, you know, but you'd always a man in the parking yard. We always carried a corn bun, as I say, you know. And we were playing, and I forget who it was. Didn't we in on the piano? But we put up the piano, and Frank Colgan was there, so we put it was a high stage. Be the height of that fireplace nearly, you know. So we got Frank up on the piano. Frank was playing away. How you doing? It was great crack. He's deadly. He would have tried anything. Yeah, he would have tried everything. I remember the Yanks in Omagh.
Do you indeed?
I do remember the tanks parked at they call it the Cow Commons down there. They're all their old stuff.
Right.
And I remember going out to Gorchin Road to the camp there, and they had a big mesh. But you could see the boys with the stars in their back or whatever that in their back.
Mm-hmm.
You know, prisoners of war type of
So
thing.
they were kept there, so
Yeah.
in the war. That's up Morland's estate, wasn't it, at the time?
No, it was the barracks just.
Right.
The army barracks must have been there. But at that stage, it was opposite the Birches near enough. At the Gusset, as they called it, that part.
Aye.
Part in Omagh, if you look the way the roads go, now you know why it's called the Gusset.
Oh. And that would have been German prisoners of war.
Yeah, or Italian.
Italian,
Yeah.
right?
Was interned anybody was here, I suppose, in case.
Oh, no, I don't think so.
Right.
No, they were all stuff in their backs. So there was star, axes, or
Right.
something.
Right.
I was only a kid at the time, and then Tony would be a year and a couple of months older than me. So, at that age of the years, a lot, you know.
Yes.
But we used to see the Yanks, and then there was my grandma and grandfather lived as you go towards the Stone Bridge off the Derry Road. Before you hit the Stone Bridge, if you look up the right hand side, there's a big house up in there, and a dive up that. Well, they lived up there. They rented it, you know, whatever. But I remember that Jean McGoldrick had met an American soldier called Albert. So there was a photograph of Albert, my mother, and Jean, and my head sticking in between them looking out. In the photograph, I wouldn't have been that old at the time,
Yeah.
you know. Oh, do you remember?
You said earlier, Frank, was a changed town now, isn't it? You see, you know, you look
Oh,
back.
God, it was great years ago. God, everybody knew everybody. 12th of July came, you were down the town, enjoying a crack and drinking lemonade if you got it. you know, if you got it. You know, there was no problem.
No, it was a good town, it always was.
Yeah, we made the hill. Like, I live in New Brighton Terrace, like, there was me, there was Mulgrews, you know, and then there was Agnes, and then there was another woman, I forget her name, then McLarens, McGillians, and then there was Potts's, and then there was Allen's. You know, it was a whole mixed row, you know, but the rest of it was St. Patrick's, McLean's, and Robin Ray.
Who was your childhood friends growing up in those days? Were you?
Oh, just the usual gang.
Were you in a gang? You were?
There was no such thing as a gang, but there was photographs of us all together. The Potts were great now. We had a great, to get the half crown on Sunday to get them in Dorn. And always we would like to go with the Potts because they were great swimmers. The father taught them to swim out in Loch Muck, right? So we'd try and gather up a half crown, you'd get the train up. And the first place you went, you got off the train, you come out down the street, and there was a Cayley family there, the Fitzgeralds, they sold tea. So we'd go in there and get tea and brown bread and butter, and you could eat as much as you liked. And then we'd leave there, and we'd go up to Rogie. We'd go to Rogie, you know, the wee island, and quite high, but we'd climb up on that, all would go up there, and the Potts would dive off the top of it. Yeah. Swallow dive down like that. Oh, lovely, but you want to see them, you used to enjoy it. And then you would get a message saying, I want some Stark margarine, and I want this, and I want that. Right, so what you did then is, when you came through then to customs, it was only a single platform. There was no platform on that side of the train. So you can see the house here, it's on the corner, it's still there. If you're going to Bundoran or Ballyshannon there, you can see it, you're going to Balleek or whatever. And so what we used to do, we used to hang it out the other side. You see, through the they would come in the customs, sending to declare, everybody was. And everybody would all tie the handles of the doors on the other side. Because there was no platform on the other side, only fields, you know. So that was your day out, like. Rogie and back and lie down. And then we used to go up then on holidays then. I remember one time I was a message boy during the summertime for Chemist shop down in Campsite. That's where Devlin's is, or not Devlin, where Paddy Slavin is now. Before they opened the road, you know, there used to be a chemist shop there. And there was an old lady and she had two Scottish dogs. What do you call them? Wee black and white dogs. One black and one white. You see them in the whiskey. She had two of them, and she'd be telling me, Frank, could you bring up some anthracite? Burnt anthracite. And there was one of the Donnellys was a chemist in it, and another lad from Dromore was a chemist in it. They were just out of college, whatever it was. And then there was a cake shop up the street a bit.
Oh, yes.
And then Blacks took it over as a furniture store, but before that was a real American job. Stools and all the whole way down, and big counter. You'd go in there and they'd make you coffee. A big fromy coffee, like, you know, really, do you remember? Yeah. And we used to get a snowball.
That's right, way ahead of his time.
It had snowballs. And the boys would send me up, and they would sweeten the tea with something out of a jug that they had to sweeten the coffee. And we used to get that every day. You could split them in half and half, you know. The boys would pay it, you know, the two boys. Yeah. And what the boss in the shop, he lived on around Campsite, closer Crescent, round that way, you know. Well, they used to have a little place when we were young. We used to go down and play there. There would be a slide or a thing that went round and round, and that sort of thing. You'd be chasing the girls in, you know, when you get that age, you'd be combing your hair in the morning.
I think the cake shop belonged to the Model Bakery.
Did it?
Yeah, it could have been all right.
I think it was, from memory, it was there, sorry. I think
they were the boys that started the Silver Birch here.
That's right.
Trainers.
That's right. But before that, it would have been Darling's. I think Darling had some interest in the Model Bakery when it opened originally, from history.
Right.
I think my mother worked in the Model Bakery. But anyway, it was a great old spot, that. God bless us. When you think of it, like, you'd take a bit of gallon up to get in and get a coffee and a bun on a Saturday, you know. It was really great, like, jumping up on the big stools and all. And you put your feet on the
American, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh, really, really lovely.
You get the cake shop part in the front, and you walk right down to the back. Then it was just like an American cafeteria.
They were really nice.
The Golden Griddle was another place up the town. The Rex.
The Rex was the one.
Yeah.
Batistis.
Yeah. Island Cafe.
Jack.
We Jack Garrett,
Jack, yeah.
Jack and Mary. Funny.
Jack and Mary.
Funny, I wanted to talk to him, but he wouldn't talk on tape at all. Just it would have been a lovely memory to have.
Yeah.
That the Island Cafe, because it's so much part of our growing up when you went to school. You
Do you remember McSorley's had a wee
Very
cafe in Bridge Street?
I remember it.
Yeah. We used to run up the stairs and think of anything and run out again. It was great.
Sam McConnell had a place beside you as well.
That's right. Sam opened a chip shop. I don't know what happened to it.
That's right.
And then Don McCaffrey, he moved into it or something too after that, I'm not sure. God, there was some things about years ago.
When you look back on it, Frank, it was a simple life, but it was a good life when you think of it.
Oh, it was great crack. Yeah. And then I remember when I was young then, the Hill boys would be fighting the boys in Castle Street. You had Putty White and different ones. And up the hill you'd have Dan McCaffrey, all the older boys, you know, the Gallagher's and all. Apparently they used to be throwing stones at one another, I'm not too sure. But you used to hear talk about it, you know,
Yeah.
when I was young.
Gang warfare.
I was fighting with boys in Cattle Street.
Right, God save.
Yeah,
Oh no.
a good footballer, Dan McCaffrey.
Pat Chester was telling me about him and Brian Collin used to throw stones at the Labour Hall when the St. Gigi's bands were practising. And they set a trap for them one night and somebody ran out and caught Brian Call. I says, Brian, I never threw stones after it.
Yeah, to do that, kids, all right.
Oh no, innocent.
Would you do it again, Frank? Would you do it all?
I would do it, but I would do it different. I had no sense, you know. What did I know about contracts or
Oh shit.
sign here? She signed that to get plays on the radio, get work for the band, you know.
Yeah.
You know, you didn't know you were signing your life away.
No.
Yeah.
You know, and I suppose people get into that business now. Do you think they're shrewder and they're more sensible?
Well, they're all caught. If you go back and you look at Elton John and all these, they were all caught. Every one of them.
Yeah.
You take that other boy, the piano player from Waterford, that sings "Wore the Cap."
Oh,
Gilbert Sullivan.
Gilbert O'Sullivan, sure, he had to sue whoever to get his money back.
That's right.
You know, but that's the same crowd that they were shipping me to.
But I think
That gang.
that was only resolved, you know,
Recently?
relatively recently.
Yeah.
That's
A few years ago.
20 or 30 years that he was fighting
Yeah,
the company.
sure, they were all caught.
Yeah.
Give away all their songs. Sure. That's why your man, what do you call him, from Belfast?
Van Morrison, huh?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Sure, he never sings that.
Blue-Eyed Girl.
Blue-Eyed Girl, because he got no money. Somebody got it off him,
Yeah.
you know. And if you wrote anything, they'd want to put the name on it too, you know.
Yeah.
And then sure, Michael Jackson bought up the Beatles back
He bought
catalogue.
the back
I think
catalogue,
Paul
yeah.
McCartney has bought it back.
Did he?
Yeah. And then of course now with the big money that they're getting from Spotify, you know, hundreds of millions of pounds for songs, you know, Bruce Springsteen and people like that.
Are they getting paid now?
They're getting paid now. They're selling their catalogue to Spotify.
Oh, I see.
And
And taking the money up front.
Yeah.
Well, why not when you're still alive?
Well, that's it. That's it.
Yeah.
That's it, you know.
Enjoy it.
But you know, the more talking to musicians and singers and that, it was hard graft. It was enjoyable.
When you were young, sure, it was great to get out of the house.
Oh, aye. Just
You know, driving around the country, sure, it was great.
And many's the gay night, from dark to daylight, I spent with people of high renown. But with all their splendour and heaps to spend, sure, my mind would wander back to Omagh Town.